Hey, what's up, everyone? This is Jason Tucker, and this is WP Blab. Today's topic is your WordPress website, why mobile responsive is important. We're going to start off by introducing Bridget. Bridget, how are you doing today?
I am well. How are you?
Not so well. I got a patch on my back. I'm recovering from an owie that I got last night for some weird reason.
Aww.
So things are doing good. I'm pretty loopy right now. I've been sleeping most of the day today, so things are going well.
Show, because I'm sleep deprived.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, great. So, folks, here's how this works. We're using a new website called firetalk.com, and Firetalk is very similar to Blab, but there's also a little bit of differences as well. On the bottom of the video screen here, you'll see, I'd imagine you'll see, if I remember correctly, you'll see a Twitter button as well as a Facebook button. We would love it if you just hit the Twitter button. If you hit Facebook, that's fine. But hitting the Twitter button would definitely get people to come in here and come hang out with you, and also ask questions and answer questions and all that fun stuff. They also have this thing called gifts, where if you give us a gift, it makes us feel good. It doesn't cost anything, but it's just a button that you can press. It's kind of like the kudos thing that Blab had, but a little different.
Mm-hmm.
That's about it. There's not much else we can do on this thing. So we're going to start talking a little bit about mobile responsive stuff and why you should actually have it on your WordPress site. Hopefully the fan that I have on right now isn't like blasting through my microphone. So
it's not blasting. It's like,
oh, great. Okay.
It feels like it's lulling me to sleep. It's like so calming.
Oh, man. All right. So here's how this is going to work. We're going to talk about some responsive WordPress stuff. And then the folks in the chat, feel free to ask us some questions. And if you want to chime in, you can actually, you can just let us know in the chat, and then we'll invite you to come onto the show, and then you can interact with us via video and voice. I love that people are putting hot dogs and donuts and all sorts of fun stuff. It's fun.
It takes a lot of clicks, though. I think it takes too many clicks.
Yeah, totally.
It should be more like the Slack emojis.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, if FireTalk really wants to level up, they need to go /Giphy.
Totally.
As the Slack people. In fact,
totally.
I did that to somebody on a text message today.
To me? You did that to me today. So
yeah.
You can still do this, but you have to type it in yourself.
Oh, okay.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about mobile responsive and what the heck that actually means. Earlier, Bridget, I sent you a text regarding a Moz article, and we'll definitely get into that in a little while. If we wanted to get that popped up, just so we can, just so we know what we're going to be talking about here. So, mobile responsive is when you can take your website and have it show up on your mobile device and have it so it actually looks good, or at least looks well enough that you're not having to scroll horizontally to go across all the content that's on the page. What usually ends up happening with mobile responsive sites is that they'll, if people have done this the correct way, they would have started as a mobile first type design and then worked their way up from there. The reason why mobile first exists is because a lot of people use mobile as their way of being able to interact with websites. And so by doing mobile responsive, what you're actually doing is, or mobile first, is that you're making it so that that site is going to work on a mobile device as it's intended, and then everyone else will suffer as it gets bigger. Versus the other way around, where you would have a site that is chock full of stuff, and you're trying to make it all fit onto the mobile device. Which mobile devices is, iPhone, Android, iPad, Android tablets, Fire stuff, all of those things from all those different companies. All of those is what makes up the mobile device, segment of the market. So you got to be real careful with this stuff, because you want to make sure that people are able to find the information that they need on the site. And everybody's website's different, and there's always a particular reason why somebody would want to go onto your website. It's not just to find who works at the company, but it could very well just be, I just need the phone number to call these people, or I just need the email to contact these people, or whatever it is. So, Bridget, when you were working at your various jobs in the past that had websites, did you guys look into doing mobile responsive stuff? Did you care about it?
That's how I built
And
my first WordPress site.
and it was
Exactly
mobile
why.
friendly?
Because of mobile get-in. So what happened was we had a CSS site that I kind of stole or whatever, borrowed a format from CSS Zen Garden, I think.
Okay.
And then that was the static site. And then the blog was on .com, WordPress.com. But when I heard about the impending doom of mobile get-in last year,
And if you want to know what mobile get-in is, I'll put that in the show notes so you can
you know,
take a look
just
at that.
Google would de-rank or
Not rank
you'd
as
be
high.
penalized if your site wasn't mobile friendly. And I realized that if I didn't have a mobile friendly site, all of my marketing efforts on social media would be for naught. So
Yeah.
that is what motivated me to, because we didn't have the budget to hire a WordPress developer. I didn't know what a developer was at that time. And I knew it was really important. We had some people proposition us. They actually sent us a green plastic trash can and printed out screenshots of our site from a mobile, what it would look like on a mobile. And that was their marketing pitch. The guy called me. Of course, my boss gave him to me. Like, of course, this thing I did for you guys for free is, you know, such a piece of crap. So I said, listen, buddy, I know this piece of shit website. It's the best thing I've ever done in my whole life. So let's reframe this entire conversation, because I agree with you, but we don't have the $7,000 to redo the site, and then I still have to cut and paste all the content.
Right.
That's the hard work.
Yeah.
No offense,
Yeah.
developers, but that was originally why I built my first WordPress site in April of 2015, because I knew it was really important, especially for brick and mortar. They want to know. First of all, you want to be found.
Right.
But also, if they need your address, it should just be obvious and everything. So
Yep.
when I built my site on ServerPress, desktop server, I just picked a mobile responsive theme. I spent a couple of days in the black hole of choosing themes.
Mm-hmm.
I settled on one. I said, I don't care anymore because it just needs to work, and this is a waste of time. Yeah. So it took me 10 days, and I had it all done, and Google gave me their mobile responsive. Because I had to merge. There was a lot of duplication and links.
Oh, yeah.
I linked to myself both ways and interlinks and everything. I did not know what a 3-1 redirect was. I still really don't.
Yeah.
I cleaned up all those links myself. Plus, I broke every link that ever existed because WordPress isn't .html. It's not riggins.com/aboutus.html.
Right.
Everything I built before April 9th, 2015 broke that day.
Uh,
So I knew it would happen. So then I just started resharing and blah, 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 blah.
yeah.
But the thing is, that's the reality is if Google's going to start penalizing you, you know, if you don't care about your customers or whatever, or you don't realize it. But I have friends that don't even have computers. They only have an iPhone.
Yeah.
So
I spend the majority of my time using my mobile, you know, either iPhone or iPad to look at websites, and it frustrates me to, you know, no end when a website isn't accessible from, or I'm forced to use the desktop version of their website.
Yeah.
Or the other one, which we'll get into in a little bit, is that the mobile version of the website is so limiting that you can't even do anything. You can't even do the thing that the company wants you to do to get them business.
Yeah.
It's like you should tell, you know, you launch your website, or before you launch your website, you're testing it, right? And you pull out your phone, you're like, what is the customer going to do? and you're like, can I get to a phone number? Can I tap on the phone number and have it actually dial the phone? Can that happen? Can I get to our website? Can I get to our website? Can I get to our contact page? Can I get to our products page? Can I add something to a cart? Can I actually check out? Can I? You got to go through that whole list of stuff. And if you're not doing it and the developer's not doing it, then obviously you pick the wrong developer, and obviously you are not prepared for what you're trying to do by having a mobile-friendly site. Yeah. So one of the questions in the chat room, and I think we'll probably just go through questions as they come in, because having to dig back is always a pain, right, Bridget?
Yeah, it's hard sometimes. Sometimes they don't let you get it.
Right. Is there a solution to make fonts responsive? Most themes seem to be built with PX. Yeah, there's a bunch of ways to do that. If you go over to CSS Tricks, he's posted a lot about how to go about dealing with font sizes, M's, rims, mims. There's all these different units of measure that you can use that are mobile responsive, that are made for be able to shrink and grow based on the dimensions of it. So yeah, go over there and take a look at how you can deal with that. It's very much so like a CSS type question, but it's definitely something that can be accomplished, and something you should look at. Yeah, right here, one of the posts here is it's a little old, but this will at least get you started a little bit. So dealing with font sizes, especially when you're building these sites out, is always fun. It's never like this easy. I'm just gonna load up the site, start making some changes, and poof, everything starts working. No, there's usually a lot of stuff that's involved in dealing with getting your site to look really, really well on mobile, and also other browsers or people. The thing is that sometimes mobile doesn't really mean mobile. It also means that grandma's running 800 by 600 a monitor dimensions. And so the font is ridiculously huge, and the only thing she's seeing or he's seeing is a mobile version of your website, because their dimensions on their monitor are set to be so big, text-wise, but everything's shrunk down, that that they can't. The only thing they're seeing is mobile. They're not even seeing the desktop version of the website. And if you didn't do everything well, you're going to end up having a lot of issues with people not being able to access your website because you're not detecting that they're actually on mobile.
Or that's something it does in the browser. It looks at the
yeah. So what a lot of your CSS styling rules are set up to essentially have these different blocks that are set up, and you're looking at the dimensions of the viewport, which is the actual browser window, and that when you shrink and grow that's when you start seeing these breakpoints that occur. So if you drag it to 960 or something, you'll see it go boop, and it breaks, and then everything kind of reshuffles. And then you go down a little bit further, and boop, it starts reshuffling again. And that's when you start seeing things start stacking on top of each other and all that sort of stuff. That's where mobile responsive is happening, is being able to do that.
So I mean, he was saying theme people use pixels, but aren't themes also have a lot of CSS in them? I mean, isn't it a CSS thing that's controlling?
Yeah. So the fonts have a unit of measure, kind of like you would say with inches or feet or whatever. It's all the same type of thing. It's just a different way of measuring it. So pixels are very much so a pixel by pixel version of it, right?
So you need the one where it's 1.em or whatever, where
right, exactly.
The computer does the math and scales it.
Yep.
Okay. But that's CSS. So it's just, that means that. So if the theme is in CSS and makes pixels for the font, then it's not mobile responsive. Is that true?
Say that again?
So if a theme, so all themes have CSS, right?
Yes.
Okay, so if a theme is using pixels to control the font, then it's not mobile responsive.
Yeah, unless, well,
I mean, it's not best practices mobile responsive.
yeah, right,
Okay,
exactly.
okay. So I'm understanding this correctly.
Yeah, because what you can do is you can set up these rules that the first thing it checks before the rule actually is set to true, is that it goes and says, hey, what's the dimensions of that viewport? Is it 960? Is it a zillion? Is it 320? Whatever it is, it can look at it and kind of figure out what that dimension is going to be. So what you could do is you still could use pixels and stick them in there that are going to be based on whatever the height and width, or whatever that width's going to be of the viewport.
Yeah, Kevin said that pixel-based font sizing can still be adjusted at breakpoints.
Yep, exactly.
Okay. So it's
now,
not a deal breaker. It's not a deal breaker.
There's a difference between this and this, though.
Haha, yeah.
So you have this width, and then you have this width. So when you rotate this way, you can actually detect to see, is that device rotated sideways? Or if you're crazy like me and you have a horizontal monitor and then I have a vertical monitor, you know why I have the vertical monitors, right? So that way when I watch like Snapchat, it all shows up the correct way.
Snapchat.
Just kidding. So I use that. Yeah, I use that for being able to do development work. But when I'll drag a site over there to go look at it, it may turn into a mobile, into a mobile responsive type of. Exactly.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so those are things you need to test, and there's plenty of places that you can test this stuff, as well as just having a collection of devices and running your tests that way. The site that I recommend a lot of people, we use it at the church that I work at, is this one. It's called BrowserStack.
Mm-hmm.
And BrowserStack, you pay per month for it. It's not cheap. It's kind of cheap, I guess. You can pay $29 a month or build annually at $39 a month. Sorry, $29 a month and build annually, or $39 a month if you pay month to month. And what it does is it allows one user at a time to use the site. But what you can do is you can test all sorts of really cool stuff on the site and make sure that it works well. You could test based on the dimensions of the monitor. You can test it based on the browser type, the browser, the version of the operating system, the version of the phone's operating system.
So a virtual device library?
Total virtual device library. It's awesome. So I use that. And what I'll do is I'll work on a page and I'll just tell it, make a snapshot of using all these different browsers. So it'll go through this huge list and give me a list of all these different browsers. And then it's up and running. From there I can start really doing some interesting stuff with it. Let me see, since we have the ability to do screen sharing.
Let's see if we can break Blab.
Should we do it? Fire Blab. Let's do it real quick just to see how it'd work out. So let me get logged in real fast here, so I don't have to show my username and password and all that stuff. And then we'll give it a shot and see what it does. Let me just I always hate when I show all the different
all the 1,500 tabs you have open.
Right, exactly. All right, so let's go over to live. This is going to be fun. Okay, let's see.
All I'm going to say is if I ever make a theme, it's going to be called Over 40 and Blind. It's not going to have any gray text. It's going to be black.
Let's see here. Oh, it says I need to refresh my browser in order to be able to do it. Oh, that stinks.
Well, we tried.
Yeah, we tried. Next time I'll make sure I do it first.
Continuously pushing the limits on WP Blab, now on Fire Talk. I figured we could keep the name because we're still blabbing.
Oh, yeah, we're totally still blabbing.
Blah, 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 blah.
And I'm one of those people that bought like 6 different domain names to figure out which one I was going to go with. So I already had some ready just in case we needed to switch.
The 8 ball of domain names.
Right.
Try again.
Exactly.
Oh,
So
man.
browser stack's amazing for this type of work because being able to figure out, like for instance, they support all the different Galaxy S7, S6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, the minis, the notes, the Note 2s, all the Nexuses, all the Motorola's,
Nokia.
you can even test the Lumias from Nokia Lumias that run Windows Smartphone, which is the only time I've ever ran Windows Smartphone is when I loaded it up in Browser Stack, and I felt kind of dirty and I had to wash my hands after I was done.
It's on like every TV show. They always have somebody with the Windows, and it's like such a egregious product placement. You're like, ooh, let me look this up on my phone. Like 20 years from now, we're all gonna laugh like the flip phones.
Right. It's like, hello, Cortana, call my friend. So testing this stuff, the thing is the thing to worry about with a lot of this stuff when you're testing for dimensions or testing for any of these types of things is you got to test on multiple browsers on multiple versions of the operating system. So I work at a church, and by working at a church, you end up with having, what are you doing over there?
Sorry.
She's like doing her mail or something.
I'm opening my mail. I'm sorry. I'm fidgety.
Okay, you got to do like this the whole time, all right? Jeez. Can't take you anywhere. So you got to test on all different browsers and all different versions of the operating system because you'll have people that are running Windows 95 that are running some really old janky version of Windows, and you got to figure out whether or not that version of Windows and that version of Internet Explorer is what you really need to worry about or not.
They're watching this on AOL 5.0.
Right. I mean, if they got the old school web TV hooked up to their TV and they're watching, they're watching their stories on there, that's not going to be fun to deal with. You got to make sure that you have the right type of stuff and that you're actually looking at it the way in which your customers are going to be using it. And the way you test that is using Google Analytics. It's free. You install it, you're good to go, and you can look at all the Google Analytics data to figure out what is it that your target audience is using. And if you really have your Google Analytics set up, let's say, for instance, you're running an e-commerce site, you can test to see who is it that's buying stuff and which ones are having problems buying stuff. Maybe the people are on Windows 3.1 or Windows XP or Windows 95 or whatever are having problems buying stuff from your website because maybe their browser doesn't support SSL or maybe who knows what. There's all sorts of reasons, and you got to figure out where the money is and how to get the puck over to where the money is to make sure that you're actually making the money. So that's just kind of that's the discovery phase that you need to do before you actually start figuring out what you're going to do with your new website design. Or if you're dealing with a site that's already been designed, why is it that we're not selling enough to this particular market or whatever?
Right.
So, man, I talked about a whole bunch of stuff that had nothing to do with responsive design, but had everything to do with responsive design.
Because you want the conversions, right?
Yeah.
So people are bouncing, we look at our own analytics at WordImpress, and surprisingly, well, not surprisingly, because our primary demographic are developers. They're at their desktops.
Yep.
So it's 70% desktop. And plus, you don't really buy plugins on your phone. But
true.
The thing is, that's something that we needed to know. So the Google Analytics will tell you. Also, if you go to the part where the behavior flow, you'll find out if they where are they bouncing the most from, and if they do get to a second page, where are they going after that? Also, I would pay attention to time on site, because if they're only there for 30 seconds or 6 seconds, they're not reading. So if you think that most of your audience, if you have a blog, if you have the proverbial cat blog, and you find out that 70% of your people are on mobile, you're not going to be wanting to write 1,200 words.
Right.
It's too long for the scrolling, right? So if you know your audience is on desktop, long form away.
Yep.
Because there's a big difference between a couple of swipes on your mouse and scrolling. Like I notice this when I use iMessage on my computer versus iMessage on my phone. And then I even type more when I use it on my computer. So like just think about your own behavior and
Yeah.
the website exists for the content, but you have to make sure that your audience is reading the content that they need. And I thought that Moz article that you found had really good examples of how sometimes if you don't design for mobile first, your content can be really difficult to find, even if it is responsive.
Right. Yeah. It definitely needs to fit the content and fit the way in which people are going to be using it. You know, one of the things we tested out at work are these two sites, one by Crazy Egg and the other one by Hotjar. And this one, Hotjar, is pretty interesting because it actually records the screen of the person that's on the website. And then it uses math to figure out where the person's actually clicking and tapping and doing things with.
Wow.
So it's not actually recording the screen. But what it's doing is it's interpreting the data that's being used to determine where they're moving their mouse and where they're sliding to scroll the page. Do they use a little scroll wheel on their mouse, or are they actually using, two-finger swipe to do it? It figures all this stuff out, and it lets you determine how are people interacting with your website. So Hotjar is pretty fun. Like you can spend a couple hours going through all the different stuff that's there. And so what you'll end up with is if you go to Hotjar's website and go to where it says recordings, you'll see the little lines that are on the screen. That's actually where the mouse was moving around on the screen. And people actually read with their mouse, like a cursor.
Yeah. Like with your finger on a book.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, they actually use their mouse as their pointer to figure out what they're reading and stuff. So you can use that to kind of figure out what's what. Yeah, or you get. We were watching this one lady, and you could tell it was a lady because she went to the women's section of our website and was looking around at stuff, and then started clicking on a few other things, and then she got frustrated and she couldn't find something, so she started violently moving the mouse back and forth on the screen, and you're like, what is going on here? And there's no rhyme or reason to what she's clicking on. She's just moving the mouse like crazy because she's frustrated and she can't find the thing.
Maybe she forgot to change the batteries in her magic mouse.
Maybe. Or if she's like me, use a wired mouse because I like wired stuff because it works. So those are cool, but also like the people in the chat are saying is using heat maps. Well, heat maps tell you over time how many people click on what and who's clicking on what. Google Analytics has this built in. Using Hotjar or using Crazy Egg to kind of figure this stuff out. You can also do that as well. And it's just a great way to kind of figure out what it is that your users are doing and how they're doing it. And then, figuring out which browsers they're using. One of the things I wanted to share with you, folks that are watching, is that if you're using Google Chrome, Safari and Firefox have this as well, but a little different, is that you can right-click anywhere on the page and go down to Inspect, and an Inspect window will show up. On the upper left-hand side of that new Inspect window that shows up, there's two icons. One that's an arrow with a little box around it. They call that the Inspector. And then to the right of it is the Toggle Device toolbar. That will actually let you figure out which device you're going to be using. So if you go up to the top there's responsive, and then there's all these different phones and iPads and whatever. That kind of gives you a rough idea of what the device is going to end up looking at on the site. But it's not going to show any of what they call the Chrome that's around it. It could be the slide bar stuff, or any of the address bar stuff, or any of those sorts of things. So it's not the best way to figure it out, but in a pinch, if you're just trying to figure out what's this going to look like when you do this, that is like the best thing, is the device options in there, being able to look at that and figure out what's what. And on the far right-hand side of that, after the percentage, there's actually a thing that lets you rotate the rotate the device. So if you click on that, it'll actually physically rotate the thing so you can see what it looks like there.
Very cool. I knew about the device. I didn't know about the rotating.
Yeah, and there's other stuff too. So if you push the little the three little vertical dots there, there's a thing in there that says hide device frames, show media queries. So you can actually see where the breakpoints are on the page. They'll show blue, green, orange, and depending on how many breakpoints they have set up. So you can use that to figure out what the dimensions are going to look like on that.
Wow.
The other thing you can do too is you can actually enable the network throttling. And what that does is you can actually pretend that you're in a really poor area or a really horribly covered cell phone area or something like that. And what it'll do is it'll actually slow down the speed of the browser so that you can see what your website's going to look like loading up on a really crappy
DSL.
Yep.
That's funny.
Just whatever you do, don't do that to the window that you're watching this show on, because it'll actually make it look horrible because it'll try to slow down to match
I
it.
was doing on the bond.
Yeah, so that's a really cool one too. And if you're using kind of a funky pixels, the height and width or whatever for some goofy device, you can actually add those in yourself and be able to look at it that way. And then being able to capture screenshots out of it's pretty nifty too. So it's all really good ways of being able to use the web browser to kind of pretend that you're a mobile device.
So if you have that, why do you need a device library?
Oh, so the main reason is that this is just showing you what it's going to interpret as for that particular device. So it's not exactly what the device is going to be like.
Oh, it's predicting.
It's predicting it, yeah. So it's very loose. It's not perfect, like at all.
Yeah, because I heard I was talking to a developer in San Diego last week, and their company is making a physical device lab for other people to use.
Yeah, we built our own, and then I got tired of collecting old phones from people, and ended up just paying for BrowserStack, and BrowserStack's just the best thing ever. Because what's neat about it is you can tell it, go on this page and take a screenshot with every single one of these different devices, and then it shows up all these different devices and what that screenshot's going to look like.
Yeah.
And then you can dig further into it and say, oh, this one's messed up. What is it that I'm doing wrong here? So in that article, Bridget, that we were looking at over there from Moz, one of the things that they were showing is what happens when your content stacks on top of each other, and what happens when what happens is when the content isn't made to be stacked onto something. So for instance, if you have, and since I don't have a screen to show you on, I'm gonna use my hands here. So sorry people at home that are watching this in another window. But what you end up having is one column of content, and then you'll have two columns within there, one that has like a photo or something, and then one that has some text. And what ends up happening is those content will stack on top of each other, but sometimes slide on top of each other. What ends up happening there is you'll have content that's laying on top of a background that actually has a graphic on it. So then you'll end up with stuff you can't read because you thought that the background for the section that text is going to be on was going to be a black background, and so you made the text white. And then when it goes on top of each other, what ends up happening? You have white text on a white background with some of it spilling off into the lower margin there. And now you really can't see what any of that content is.
Mm-hmm. I like how they talk about pop-ups, because that's like the bane of my existence.
Yeah.
Especially on mobile, because sometimes the pop-up window is wider than the screen.
Right.
So you're like sitting there trying to pinch and zoom, and
where's
you're
the
like,
X?
I'm done.
Yep.
Yeah, because if you can't find it, I mean, that's annoying anyway. Like, my personal theory is those opt-in boxes work because people just want it gone. And then they complain that they get too many emails. But for me, I'm like, I'm clicking it off the whole time. Matt Cromwell uses one that as you scroll down and obviously you're reading, it will show like when you get about 75% through. To me, that seems more reasonable. Not 30 seconds. Like, I just barely got here and I told my dog to stop barking, and now there's a pop-up. Like, it's that kind of a thing.
Right.
Like, yeah, too much too soon, buddy. You know?
Yep.
You don't walk up to somebody and ask them out on a date. Like, it's just, get this, buy now. Ah! And then it takes up all the whole place. And it's like, remember when it was really popular to have a website autoplay music?
Oh yeah, that was like the best day ever. Yeah, it was
And
amazing.
all of a sudden you're at work and it's like, ah! You know, like, your boss now knows you're on the internet.
Right.
Thanks a lot, buddy. Forgot to turn your volume down.
Oh man.
Yeah, and also the things can stack in the wrong order. It no longer makes sense.
Yeah.
The div containers or whatever.
Yep. It will end up looking bad, or you'll be you have those set up to tell a story, and that story is now out of order because it says like step 1, receive pizza.
Yeah.
Step 2, make phone call. Step 1, do this. It's like it's all out of whack.
That would be bad. Or the navigation pops out like this, like those old phones that slide, and then you can't see it.
Right.
Like it's so tiny.
Yeah. I know that there's a like we have gone from one type of a setup with well, earlier in the chat somebody was saying that my old website is totally mobile responsive because I use tables. Which is totally true because most people, they wanted the content to show up on the screen 100% across. And then they just made a bunch of columns that are either percentage based or a fixed width that was small enough that it would totally work on a mobile device. So those sites actually would be responsive, but they're not really responsive, because it's a table.
Interesting.
So another tip for dealing, especially with iPhone, is if you're building your site and you're wanting to look at how it looks like on your iPhone, back in OS 10 version of El Capitan, it may have been earlier, I don't remember now, but there was a way of doing a handoff. And so what you could do with handoff is you could be in a web browser and then take your phone and slide up from the bottom, and you'll end up, or rather, you double tap on the button on the bottom, and what ends up happening is it'll show you the website that you're actually on will show up as something selectable on your phone, and you'll be able to load up that browser window quickly and easily, so you don't have to copy and paste or figuring out a way to text message yourself to get the link to go to the page to look at it. So
And
you
even
could do that
happens
sort of
on
thing to test it.
Yosemite, like if I'm on Safari on my phone, it'll show up. I don't like Safari on
the little thing in the corner will show
phone.
up.
I was trying to share a screenshot. I had a little glimmer of hope that we could,
And it didn't let you?
No.
It says you need to refresh the page.
No, it didn't say that, but it just didn't work. Like it works in iMessage. I wish it would just work other places. So
yeah, but Safari does it. If you have Chrome running on your computer and then you have Safari running on the phone, you can actually send it over to your phone from Chrome over to Safari. So those sorts of things just kind of work. It's built into the operating system, just kind of handles it. So that's kind of an interesting way to do that stuff too. I know, I'm tired as well. Even though I took a huge nap today. Still tired.
I told my sister I'm going to try taking a little nap. She goes, "What if you sleep through Blab?" I go, "I won't. I'll put an alarm."
So Kevin in the chat's talking about using his device lab and how his device lab's typically faster than using browser sync.
Yeah.
I totally get that. I just don't want to have my entire desk just littered with devices, because it is right now, and that's just my own stuff that I take out of my own pocket. So I really don't want to have a whole bunch of stuff. And the thing is I've seen people from all different walks of life, all different shapes and sizes of phones and stuff that will show up and go like, okay, here we go. Here's all your devices. And they'll walk in with their, cheapo device, and they're like, I can't access your website on it. And you're just like, oh, man. I forgot to test the, $35 phone from Walmart.
Right.
Darn it. I should have done that. No, you're right. You're right, Kevin. $50 corkboard and a couple things. Throw a bunch of devices on there, and you're good to go.
Wow. I think there's a support group for people who have that many devices.
Well, like for us, what I do is I collect all the old devices that our facilities department uses that no longer use because they get an upgrade.
Right.
And it's not worth it for them to trade it in anyhow. So I'll take those, and I have old iPads that we use for children's ministry and stuff. Sure. And I use those to test. Mm-hmm. Because iPads, for instance, iPad 1, people still use iPad 1 as their main device to be able to hop on the internet and do stuff on there. And if your website doesn't work on the first iPad, then you got some issues there, especially if you have a lot of JavaScript, a lot of Ajax, and a lot of
Flash?
jQuery, no Flash. Flash doesn't work on iOS devices, thank goodness. But any of that sort of stuff, then what ends up happening is that device essentially wants to just like catch on fire because it can't process all of the stuff that you're essentially booting up an operating system every single time you go to somebody's website, and that poor mobile device is trying to figure out how to deal with it.
Yeah. I mean, I was talking to my girlfriend about just the fact that it seems like if you have a 5 right now, or 5S, when they're about to release the 7s, you're so far behind that things stop working. And I said, it's not that the phone doesn't work, it's that the way we build websites and apps has continued to progress in time. Like you're here and it's keeping going forward. So things won't work, like there's always different updates to things. And not about mobile responsive, but last Friday I went to the dine-in chat with Yoast, and he was talking about, because somebody said something like, oh yeah, PHP 7's so fast, it's way bitching, blah, 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 whatever. He goes, wait till you guys see 7.1. And people are like, what's it going to be? And he said something like, if you have 3 different requests and there's only 2 options, it breaks. And everybody like had these horrified faces. It's an advanced WordPress group.
Right.
So like I took that as a bad thing. Like, I don't know what language they're speaking, but their facial expressions are showing dismay. And, so the way things are written now, they might not work, Like I have a Mac. My Mac is 2008. I know I need to replace it. So I am still on Yosemite, and I am not going to El Capitan because I've heard people with machines that old going to El Capitan and then going El White Screeno. So that's the thing, is we forget the technology is going forward. It's not stopping in time with you and your personal budget.
True.
So like instead of replacing my MacBook, like for doing social media at WordCamps, I'm just using my husband's old iPad too.
Yeah.
So it's old, but it's still like brand new, So, the thing is, like even people in our industry, I met a social media person a couple weeks ago that has an iPhone 5. And their work is social media. I'm like, I upgraded and I'm paying a lot more on Sprint because I need my phone. Like when you do social media, you need your phone because you need to be able to take pictures and tweet and whatever right on the fly.
Definitely.
But I got the bigger one with 64 gigabytes because you can't hang with 16 anymore. You just can't.
No
the
way.
apps are too big. So it's like everything.
Or photos or videos. It's like you want to post a video or record a photo, record a video or take a photo or something. You're gonna have some issues.
Yeah, I try not to ever get above 500 in my camera roll. I just as a practice, and I'm very good about backing up my photos. But the apps take up a lot of space, so that's what I'm saying. All these things progress and they continue to progress. And so that's the mobile response design is going to continue to progress also as everybody makes advancements in how they build sites, right? I mean,
yeah.
We lost Robert. What happened?
Yeah, it looks like Robert wanted to join in, and so I tried to add him in. You were in mid conversation, so I didn't want to jump him in the last moment. So I wanted to get him in here at least.
Don't get him
Robert, if you want to hop in, just hit the I accept button. I think you have to provide your firstborn or something. I forget what the exact thing is there, and then it'll let you connect. But yeah, if anybody else is interested in wanting to hop on and ask us some questions or share with the rest of the group, this is like a meetup. It's totally like a meetup. If you have something you want to share, we would love to give you the floor and let you share it. If you have any suggestions or anything like that, yeah, feel free. Just somewhere on the screen here, there's a button that says "I want to be involved in."
Yeah, because I saw in the chat Robert wants to be a guest. I was like, well, how does he say that? I touch an icon for fun.
No problem.
I bet you say that to all the girls. Okay, so
what else is there with mobile responsive stuff? So
well, your buttons. Okay, so there's a whole issue with the hamburger.
Oh my goodness!
And then actually saying menu.
Yeah.
Because older people don't understand what that is. And then the way the menu slides out or pops down or becomes this scrolly thing goes, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It sounds like you're ticking something. That needs to be big enough for people to read too. Like, that's great. You conquered the pixels on the EMs or the viewpoints on the actual text, but you can't see the menu. And if it's not big enough for your finger to touch only that thing.
Yep.
Right.
So we had this exact same issue over at the church I work at, which there's a link for it, so you can go check it out. So we used to have a hamburger menu in the corner, and I thought, oh, hamburger menu, everybody knows what a hamburger menu is. And then this person shows up with their iPad, and they connect on to, go look at the website. And they're looking at the website, and they're going, where's the menu for this thing at? And all there was just a black box on a black background with white lines on it, 3 white lines, and that was the hamburger menu. Mm-hmm. And this person had no clue what a hamburger menu was. So she calls me, and she says, hey, I'm trying to find, one of your classes on your website. How do I get to it? What do I do? And I'm like, really? What? Well, there's a little menu button in the corner. She goes, that's a menu button? How do I know that's a menu button? I'm like, okay, we're going back to square one. Here we go. So we ended up switching out from that to, we used a color that we would never use on any of our hero graphics on our website. And we picked this kind of a teal color, which is a secondary to color that we use on our website. By having a style sheet, you typically pick colors that work within the style sheet. And you continue to use those throughout the site. So we made sure that the menu says menu and it's a big bold font. I mean, it's a little hideous when you you look at the page, you're just like, oh my gosh, really? But if you go and scroll, kind of shrink down that particular site, you can see how that menu will show up there.
Looks better than the regular one.
Yeah, definitely. Yep. So then you can just kind of scroll down, and you'll see that menu actually sticks and stays up on the top the entire time you scroll. Yep. It's pretty spiffy.
I gotta do things backwards.
So we've used that menu as kind of the way to make sure that people are going to be able to find that information and be able to find it easily, and it's consistent throughout all the pages on the site.
That's cool.
So what have you folks in the chat, what type of menuing schemes have you seen on websites? Like what's that menuing scheme? What is it that you're typically seeing on your website or on various websites that have that particular menu scheme? Is it a hamburger menu? Is it the word menu? Is it what?
Yeah, because you need the hamburger style for the drop downs, right? I think sometimes we have too many drop downs. Like the drop down list can be too long. That's another thing. In fact, we just did a site audit for a client, and that's one of the things we changed. Instead of there being one thing that went, it wasn't necessarily for mobile, but it was just too long for a real person. I mean, it went all the way down like to here on your browser. It's too long. Like figure out let's make the path easier. Like in the Wizard of Oz, how do they get to the Oz? Follow the yellow brick road. This is not complicated. Right. And they made a song. That was a really good user experience, right? And
so we need a song that says like push the hamburger menu, push the hamburger menu. Then, it looks like 3 lines. It looks like 3 lines. Push the hamburger menu.
Exactly. I mean, and then the whole way to Oz, except for a couple times, the brick road was indeed yellow. So we forget, we just keep adding. Sometimes we will just keep adding to a site and we think every page needs to be on the main navigation, and maybe it doesn't.
Maybe it doesn't. Well, what John was saying, the off canvas menu is kind of the drawer that slides over, or the drawer slides over and then the content slides over as well. So it looks like the whole thing's kind of moving. I mean, that's cool and all, but
it's hard for me.
Yeah. And it freaks the older people out, I'll tell you.
I'm just saying, your eyes, you guys that are 20, your eyes change.
Yeah.
So I'm like scared to go get my eyes examined again. I'm a little bit late on that. I haven't done it in 4 years. You're supposed to do it every 2. But because I've noticed, like, Devin will pick up on something and go, that really looks pixelated. And I go, it does? I can't tell. It looks like Time for that eye exam. I'm just saying, like, that the clearness to read, and you don't need as much contrast when you're young. Right. Jamal gave this talk a couple of times at WordCamps, designing for seniors, but it's also for colorblind, and it's it's an accessibility issue. The menu icon is also an accessibility issue, which
Yeah. Totally is. Let's see here. Who was it? Kevin was saying, limit the number of menu items that you have so people are able to find that.
Exactly. Don't make it too confusing.
Definitely. Or having, I don't know. I'm not sure how I feel about this. Of having like a sub menu somewhere on the site. Like, for instance, let's say, like, if we go over to that celebrateexperiences.com site. Let's say you had the About Us, the England, blah, 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 but then you had a menu that's below it. We've tested that in a couple different ways to kind of make the menus not be so big.
Yeah.
Or just not have as much content on there, or having your menus too long.
Yeah.
Like on our current, we're actually rebuilding our entire menuing scheme on the EV-Free website. The contact menu is so long on there that it's like, why would you? There's no way you're going to be able to find that content.
No, there should be a landing page for the contact us, and then you can see what your choices are. You want to talk to this guy, this guy, this guy, this guy. It should be more like a directory.
Yeah.
But a lot of times they use that extra navigation's in the footer.
Oh yeah, true. Or you just have duplicate navigation, which I've seen people that have a hard time, or they have cerebral palsy, or they have some type of motion type issue, where they know to scroll to the bottom of the page, and then they go and click on the link, and especially the ones that have these motor skill type issues, that they're having a hard time clicking on those links. So what they'll end up doing is they know to push Command plus to make the page bigger, and then they move their mouse onto it, and they're able to click on it. So I've watched these people kind of interact with the websites, and it's just like, wow, they come up with some really interesting ways to be able to find those interactions.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Set the accommodations, menu, sample, etc. on this page. Yeah, exactly like this. So John was saying that over on one of the websites that he put in here, was it xeniacharters.com? That if you scroll down in the middle of there's some photos of some people, and then there's some accommodations and sample menu and crew and testimonials. That's a great way to take somebody to a particular landing page, and then when they scroll down, they'll have additional places that they can go and click on to find that information. So that's super cool. I like that. It's actually a really pretty website too.
Yeah, it is pretty. I'm trying to look at it on my phone.
Oh yeah.
I turned my Wi-Fi off because of the show, so it's taking a minute.
Robert was saying, I used the giant yellow trackball to teach seniors how to use a mouse 10 years ago. Yep.
So.
Ooh, that's a really cool one.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, mobile, it's just a stacked menu list. That's great.
Yeah, but it's bigger, and it's bigger for your fingers to touch it.
Right.
And then it has more choices.
Yeah, that's dealing with larger touch points is huge for that. Like
especially
for instance,
men.
Yeah, you got these sausage fingers. You got the sausage fingers, and you're trying to push buttons on there.
Yeah.
Let's see here. What else do we got? So Jonathan Perlman was saying that he likes a plugin called Responsive Menu. But then until they updated to version 3, and it made the minimum requirements PHP 5.4. Yep. I've seen plenty of those types of things. At some point here, you're definitely going to have to switch up to the newer versions of PHP because, just like with anything, they end up ditching those things pretty quick.
Yeah, I mean, WordPress is committed to backward compatibility, but PHP isn't, right?
Yeah.
Isn't that kind of an issue? Because PHP is their own thing.
Yeah, exactly. And you can set the requirements the way you see fit. So looking on this mobile menuing scheme is great. And you do have kind of a expanded menu set, and there's some pretty cool stuff on there.
Is it on the repo?
Yeah, I just put a link to it there right at the bottom of the chat.
Oh, cool. I'll check
it's
it out.
The responsive menu plugin.
I always save things to favorites on this show.
Well, then we have, are you still putting anything in the Pinterest?
Oh my gosh, I totally flaked on that, but I should, especially these plugins.
Yeah, I was wondering if you were still doing that.
I'll just do it right now so I don't forget.
Well, now with Buffer, I just start throwing all my links in there, and they just start showing up in boards on Pinterest. So that's good.
Yeah, it helps because I get in these phases, especially with Pinterest. I'm like, nobody even cares. Why even do it? I get, I'll give, like, this is the longest I've done anything on the internet probably that was this consistent, and it's only because of you. Because if it was me, I'd be like, Blab died. Let's all quit and go home. I get who cares? It doesn't matter. Blah. And so I go through these phases, and then I go, oh no, I need to be more diligent. Like that's what happened with my own blogging. Is I'm like, so the cobbler's children and the shoes and everything. So BridgetWiller.com's like barely showing up every other full moon. And then I went to a blogging workshop. I'm like, yeah, I know there's stuff I can write about that doesn't conflict with what I write about for work. So then I said, okay, everybody, I'll post at 9:15 on Saturdays. So there's been a couple Friday nights I was partying hardy, writing 9 o'clock at night. Like I said, I would do this, and people know it now. You know. So, but I forgot about the dumb Pinterest. Pinterest is the redheaded stepchild of my social networks. Like, I give more attention to Snapchat than stupid Pinterest. I think it's because I don't deal in retail. If I had an e-commerce store, I'd be all over it like a fly on flypaper.
Oh, yeah.
Because Pinterest has a better search almost than Google. And Pinterest will do the same thing that Amazon does. If you save a pin from an e-commerce store, it will notify you when the price drops. Yeah, if you have e-commerce,
yeah,
you need to be on Pinterest.
Totally.
Mm-hmm. When I put things like that for my mom's, she used to be on Etsy. She left them because they had payment gateway issues and they didn't pay everybody for like 10 weeks or something. And so she went over to Zibbit. But every time I post things from her store, she gets hits and she gets sales. It's really geared toward visual and buying because people are on Pinterest to buy. They're making wish lists and they have intent. I'm just not in retail, so it doesn't matter to me. See, nothing I do is retail. So,
yeah.
But I recommend it to anybody who is. So,
oh yeah.
It's not that I don't like it. It's just, you can only be so many places.
It's true.
But yeah, that is good for our show notes. Because does any of this chat get ported over like the Blab stuff used to?
I have to do it manually.
Oh my gosh.
It's easy. I have a script that does it all.
Still.
It takes 2 minutes. Oh. It's super quick.
Of course, you have a script.
Copy, paste, run a script, spits out a bunch of links.
LinkedIn
Done.
Fridays. I'm on LinkedIn more than I am on Pinterest. I'm on LinkedIn every day. Because LinkedIn, now I'm like.
Wait, is Kevin saying LinkedIn Fridays because that's when people get laid off, and so they go on LinkedIn to update their information so they can find another job? Is that what LinkedIn Fridays is?
Oh, are you making a joke or is that a real thing?
No, I'm making a joke, but is that kind of a real thing though? Because LinkedIn Fridays would mean that people lose their job on Friday, and then they have to go and find a new job using LinkedIn.
Well, you do tend to get laid off on a Friday.
You totally do. That's why I'm saying, is it LinkedIn Fridays like that?
Well, for me, if I feel like I don't want to be on Facebook, but I want to read something, I'll go to LinkedIn. It's more professional. There's more professional content there.
I'm still old school RSS reader. I still use Feedly to read all my RSSs.
I know.
It's like
I
know it's very much so like the Web 2.0 newspaper, but
whatever works for you, man.
It works for me.
That's the thing is, I was telling my boss today, I don't really care how anybody wants to communicate with me. I will fax you. Okay? To me, it's about doing it the way that works. And the way that works is the way that works for you.
Right.
So, a lot of times I'm waiting, even still in this job. Like I did my part, now somebody needs to review it. And I don't have enough time to start a new project. Mm-hmm. So that's when I do my social media. It's all in the middle of stuff. But anyway, somebody was saying before in the chat that you should just go to apps. But see, here's the thing with apps. Do I really need to download your app just to look for your phone number? And do I have enough space on my phone? And if I'm only using my phone, what kind of bandwidth do you think I have in order to download said app?
Well, how else are they going to send you notifications of the latest and greatest thing that you're not really interested in?
I went out to dinner with Jen Miller and a couple of friends the other day. And they go, oh, download our app and you'll get a free Pizookie or something, whatever it was. She
Right.
goes, that's cool. As then she goes to download it. It's like 15 minutes. It never downloaded. And, she's got a hotspot. She has a good cell phone carrier. It had nothing to do with that. She has a brand new iPad Pro. Her equipment was not an issue. But look, if you want to give us a cookie, just give us a cookie. Make it easy. Like to me, that's the whole marketing part of mobile responsive. I should be able to go to your thing, press a big button to contact you, or whatever your call to action. It should be easy. So to say that because you don't want to design for mobile first, you should have an app, those are different issues.
Yeah.
So,
well, I guess it depends on the person, because if you're a millennial, then you may be the type that goes into a store and says, "Oh, I need to download the app for the store that I'm in so I can interact with the store that I'm currently in." And so they'll go download the app and use that. I don't know if that's true or not, but that may be the way that people do things.
I mean, Robert Barker is saying app downloads are way down. People are getting more discriminating. I think they're getting more discriminating because their phone ran out of space. I mean, if you had to take off photos of your grandma, you're not going to download an app for a cookie.
This is true.
Let's talk about reality here, So, and plus, if you have a mobile app instead of a mobile responsive site, that's still not dealing with Google. And Google is the Don Corleone of the internet. So,
right.
If you want, you need him to kiss your ring, and you need to kiss his. You come to me on this day of my daughter's wedding, and they're going to ask something of you. And they're going to, what they're going to ask of you? DDAP. And we're going to give it to them because they give us free stuff. What's interesting, just as an aside, about the question and answer with Joost de Valk, their whole attitude in Europe about privacy is so different than ours.
Oh, yeah.
We do not care. We do not care. I mean, we say we care, and this is what Gary Vaynerchuk always says. Americans say they care about privacy, but their behavior does not match that.
I'm about to Instagram this right now, and I'm going to tag where I'm at, and I'm
check
going
in
to
on Swarm.
Oh, and I didn't even ask you, Bridget, but I'm totally going to tag you in it, and I'm going to tag this, and that's it. This, Europe is the reason why you have those pop-ups that come up that says, "We're going to save your information into a cookie. Is that okay?"
Mm-hmm.
Like they're the reason why that exists, because Americans don't care about that stuff.
It got brought up because they were talking about data. And he goes, You can't even trust the data because Europeans will always say no. So to him, the data he was getting was all American, which does him no good because it's a worldwide product.
Right.
But, everybody has, it's just a funny thing, like the difference with that attitude. And so to me, like, if you have that attitude of, I don't want you knowing about me, are you going to be the person that signs up and downloads an app?
Right.
Like how much, the people are like, Facebook's listening to your conversations right now. Like they have a partnership with the NSA. Like maybe they do, maybe they don't. This isn't that interesting, so I don't care. But the thing is, every time you call your bank and you're taking your social security number, blah, 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 blah. That's the most important sensitive information that exists anyway. So,
yeah. Especially when you're standing in a store and the person's like, have your social security number? And they're like, 9647. You're like, dude, you're standing in line at the grocery store and you're yelling out your social security number. What you do?
Summer in an apartment building.
Oh,
with neighbors who are on speakerphone calling their bank. Talking super loud because they're deaf. Okay? So I'm just saying, like, if we're thinking about making the website's available to people on 3G, people who have older devices. Those are not people who have any room on their phone for an app.
Yeah.
So the Venn diagram of that situation, that's all I'm saying. I'm not against apps. I'm just saying an app needs to have a specific purpose and a value that is beyond a website. I think they're different questions entirely.
I think so too. And I think it really just I think it depends on the person. Somebody in the chat was saying they're not even sure if someone has even installed an app. I've looked at phones. I'm like, oh, is this a brand new phone? And the person's like, no, I've had this for years. And I'm like, you don't have a single app installed on your phone.
How do
And
they
they're
not
like,
have any apps?
they're like, oh, you can install apps? And I'm like,
Wow.
yeah, see all these little icons that are on my phone? They're all apps.
How many screens do you have?
Oh my gosh. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Oh my gosh, I should have known better. I have 3.
And I have
And
folders in
some-
there.
yeah, I have folders. See, I just don't want a bunch of stuff. If I'm not using it, it's gone. I wish I was like that with my closet. I need to be as diligent with my apps on my phone as I am with my closet. I'm minimalistic only with my phone. Everything
Right.
else is just like borderline hoarder. Phone hoarders. There you go. App hoarders. Next
App
on
hoarders.
Dream Lab, we're going to be on app hoarders.
Oh man.
You show up to the baptism of your kid, you can't take a picture.
Did you see that?
Married.
That was one of the advertisements for, oh, I think it was Samsung was doing that, where they were showing, oh, you could put more higher capacity SD cards in your phone. And it's like, yeah, in your iPhone you can't do that.
Right.
You're stuck with what you got.
There was a Google Photos commercial where the guy's like, yeah, I'm spontaneous, I'm having fun, I'm gonna jump in the pool. And in the middle of his jump, he goes, oh no, I remember my phone's in my pocket. Oh no, my phone's in my pocket. And then he splashes down.
Oh man.
Yeah, he said good thing he had Google Photos. But anyway, so to me, I think an app should have a very singular purpose. But I come from marketing, so like it should be easy, call to action, whatever. So that's not the same as your site. Mobile responsive, you want it for all those devices. And like I said, a lot of people are on their app, even on an iPad Pro, and that's a mobile device. And it's why I'm never going to replace my laptop with an iPad. Until Facebook, there's stuff you can't do on Facebook with a mobile device. Like if you are a page manager, then on your phone you act as that page by default without being able to change it at all. I can't upload a picture of our group photo of Women Who WP and then tag those people because it wants me to tag only pages. So I have to go home, open it up, change who I am from Women Who WP to Bridget, and then I can tag people. So that to me, like there's so many, and that's just a dumb thing, but there's password situations that it won't let you change your password because you're on a mobile device. So I think that when these other, services, these other app services like Facebook and Google start recognizing tablets at least as computers, that thing is never going to change. But even still, tablets are all different. There's, the iPad Mini, the 6 Plus. I mean, whatever, right? They're all over the gamut.
Yeah.
Just embed your WordPress site into an app.
Well, John, we actually did that exact same thing for the app that we have at our church. Is that a lot of the pages that are on or rather a lot of the screens that are on the app are just embeds using like a Safari viewport to display the website on there. And we actually have websites. We actually have a way where we're hiding all of the header type stuff on our website to make it so it shows up on the in the app without actually seeing the navigation on the top or anything like that.
Wow.
Yeah, we gotta get creative.
I mean, that's what I'm saying. Whatever works, that's what works. So
Right.
I think it goes, I mean, instead of just saying it depends, you have to go back to your Google Analytics. That's what the Moz article suggests. Know your audience, know their personas, know their behavior. You almost have to become a sociologist, because if you study human behavior, then you'll know how to get them to respond. So,
Yep. Bridget, I think we should finish up 5 minutes early. How about that today?
sounds like a plan. I got a leftover cheesecake calling out my name. Bridget, I'm coming.
Nice.
I'm coming.
Awesome.
The claim jumper.
Folks, go over to our website, wpwaterco.com/WPBlab. Check out all the stuff that we have going on over there. I'd appreciate it. Bridget would appreciate it too. Go over to Bridget's website, bridgetwillard.com. She does all sorts of fun stuff over there. And
Saturdays at 9:15.
She also works over at WordImpress. If you check out WordImpress's website, they make this awesome plugin called Give, and they make a bunch of really cool stuff if you do any type of brick and mortar type of companies and you want to be able to interact with those and make it so your Yelp reviews and all sorts of fun stuff like that will show up on your website. Good stuff. So go check that stuff out. I'm Jason Tucker. You can find me over at jasontucker.us. You can see all my photography stuff at jasontucker.us/photography. I'm also participating in the SSS Veda. So if you go to jasontucker.us/SSS Veda, you can take a look at that stuff too. That's it, Bridget. Talk to you later. We don't have an app. See you later. Bye-bye.